All right, that CPU is much better. How's the volume on this? Clap if you can hear me. Thank you. Is everyone in the right place? This is for brainwave music. You're not wondering why I'm wearing a headband. What you're hearing is my live heartbeat. It is smoothed out, so technically what you're hearing is my heartbeat's BPM. And the BPM of my heartbeat is powering Ableton's tempo. So even just with this first step, which is using a PPG, it's similar to a pulse oximeter. Do you remember pulse oximeters during the pandemic? So it's a laser that shines on your skin and it detects blood flow passing by. And it is able to pick up your heartbeat based on that flow. And this software, am I loud enough or no? Can you hear me? Great. In this chart, the red line going up and down, that's the flow of my blood up and down as it's passing by this PPG laser that's shining on my forehead. And so by the flow going up and down, I'm able to pick up the BPM. So when it peaks at the top, that's the beat, and then the flow goes down. I'm taking that BPM, which is in this section here where it says heart BPM, and the dot lights up when it detects a pulse. And then that sends it as a MIDI clock. So was everyone here when I described MIDI? Does anyone want a brief description of MIDI? It's a musical instrument digital interface, MIDI, and it's a way that computers talk to drum machines, talk to synthesizers. It's a way for music machines to pass essentially sheet music to each other. And one of the things they can send is what tempo a song is to be. And that's called MIDI clock. And so I'm converting my heartbeat through this software into a MIDI clock, and then it tells Ableton what tempo to play at. Back in Ableton, you can see it's grayed out, but do you see this EXT, this yellow EXT in the corner, upper left corner? Yes, no? Do you see the EXT? Okay, thanks for waiting. Next to it, it's pretty grayed out, but you see this number changing, so it's 63, 64, that's my live heartbeat. And so, again, even just with this step, there's this connection between what's going on inside my chest and what's going on inside of my computer. So it's already, just playing my heartbeat is more vulnerable than if I were just to play a song that's at a fixed tempo. And that's one of the things that inspired me to do work with biosensors, is that I did techno and experimental music for decades. And as long as, I would have these machines in front of me, sometimes I would have Ableton, sometimes I would have drum machines and sequencers. As long as I hit play and turn the knobs at the right time, the audience didn't know if I was bored, if I was nervous, if I was tired, if I was excited, if I was sleepy. There was this lack of intimacy because all of my music making was kind of armored by these quantized machines. Whereas if someone's playing guitar or playing an instrument that's less mechanical, you can kind of tell if they're, And so this is a way to do electronic music that's more vulnerable. And so my heartbeat, setting the tempo, you can get a sense of, am I nervous? Am I giving a lecture? Am I meditating? Am I tired? And this is without any brain waves. This is just from heart rate. Before we dive deeper into this, I want to be able to share this with a number of people. I have 3 extra headsets. First hands I see. 1, 2, 3. I'll show you how to use it. Hey, what's on my screen? There we go. Okay. To put this on, so it's does everyone know what Walkmen are? Hey. all right. It's great. So they're just like Walkmen, they're retractable. And so what I do is I extend it all the way out first. If you're wearing glasses, unfortunately you do have to take it off. And you put them on just like glasses. So it fits behind your ear quite snugly. And then I tighten it by clicking both sides equally, like click, 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 click. It's little pinching motions. And you'll feel it get tighter and tighter on your forehead. And it starts to pull the back of your ears as well. Do you need help? With the glasses, yeah, of course, yes. And so I pinch it far enough that it starts to pull my ears just a little bit. It doesn't hurt, but just a little bit. And some of these folks were in my research study downstairs, so you have some experience wearing these. Next thing you'll do is everyone, I should have asked first, is everyone on a Mac that has the headset? Okay. Do you have Chrome? Do you have Google Chrome, the browser? Great. Yeah, go ahead and try to put your glasses on top. Yeah. I think that should work. So go to Google Chrome. I don't have a QR code, but it's a pretty simple URL. Go to primary-assembly.com/apps/mind-control. Mind control. Yeah, come closer. It's good to see you here. Yep. /apps/mind-control. I like dashes, clearly. Oh, we'll have to take turns. On the ones I gave you, it's labeled. So if you take it off, there's a blue sticker on it on the inside, and that's your ID number. I should have mentioned that before. Yeah, it's on the inside. So that's your ID. Yep. And it may ask, allow this Bluetooth device to connect. And what we're using is web Bluetooth. So this sends Bluetooth packets, so EEG, heartbeat, also has a motion sensor, accelerometer. So it sends those packets via Bluetooth, and it's received by Chrome as a browser. Is everyone on this screen? Did it connect? And are you getting waves? And I just want to make sure everyone gets to this point first, and then we'll proceed. Yeah? Voyo, do you need help? Yeah.
Muse, not other people's.
So a Muse can only connect to one computer at a time.
It's not like yours.
And you have a string of data jumping out of town?
I'm trying to connect to mine, and it was showing up the photographs of 9
Reload the page that usually fixes it. The other thing I sometimes do is reach in on the bike, rather than just at once. Okay. All right, everyone's connected. Do you see the white line at the bottom? It's a little higher on the left side and it's low. That is your brainwaves. So if you see it jumping all up and down, it just means it needs to be tightened. So kind of an interesting thing about brainwaves is that noise from the sensor, well, yours might need to be a little bit lower. Are you getting a good signal? On your ears, more like glasses. Yeah. And then it can be in the middle of the forehead, but low down on the ears. Is it clear? Is it more towards the bottom? Great. Is that working for you? Mm-hmm. Great. So the interesting thing about brainwaves and EEGs sensors in terms of amplitude is that the device noise is much, much stronger. Even picking up on noise from the atmosphere, you'll get different peaks based on whether you're here or in Europe or in China, because the wall current is different and it'll pick up on the wall current. So it's only when you put it on and it's a really good fit, it's able to block out all the other noise, and the signal gets actually very small looking, and that's a good brainwave signal. Because, compared to, like a electrical outlet, what the brain is outputting through the skull and through the skin, it's actually a quiet signal. And so what we see here with that white line just bouncing along the bottom, that's a clean signal, that's a good signal. And it's showing that it's brain waves rather than other types of noise. The other thing you might notice is as I'm talking, do you see the left side jumping up and down? So that is muscle tension from my forehead. So as I'm talking, it's those low frequencies are picking up on these huge muscle spikes. So it happens if I blink or clench my jaw, or if I'm talking, my forehead's moving. So a lot of times if you're doing research on brain waves, you filter out those peaks because it's muscle, it's not brain. However, for performance and artistic purposes, I use that low end because it is a expression of stress. So if I'm stressful and I have a lot of tension in my forehead, it will show up as these peaks on the low end, on the left side of the screen. As you move from left to right, the very bottom is that muscle tension. As you move further to the right, more in this area, is theta waves, and then alpha waves. I'll explain these in a second. This whole midsection is beta waves, and then the high end is gamma. Quick explanation of what those waves are. So the ones that we're really not seeing here because it's blocked by the muscle noise and the fact that we're awake is delta. So delta is at this really low frequency, and there are these long, slow, big waves in the brain, and they are strongest when we're totally passed out, blackout sleep. And also in terms of human development, when we are first infants, we first are able to produce delta waves. So when our brain is just at its most primary core functionality, it's delta waves. And as we grow and our brain gets bigger, we start to be able to produce higher and higher frequency waves. So if we go from delta all the way up to gamma, we can't produce really strong gamma waves until we're fully grown and our brains are fully formed, so like early 20s. So delta waves, back to the bottom, delta waves are deep sleep, not dreaming, and that's when your body is doing repair. So brain repair, body repair, deep rest. The next frequency up is theta, and that's dreaming. So it's slightly more active, but you're still unconscious. It's not blackout sleep, but you're more conscious and your brain's doing something. Not more conscious, you're unconscious, but you're dreaming, so your mind is active. And theta state is quite active when you're a toddler. So it's a very impressionable state. Like if you were to be hypnotized, you move into a theta state and you're more suggestible, just as much as toddlers are very impressionable to the messages of the world around them. Theta is also, it's a state that a lot of therapists or neurotherapists want to get their patients into, because you can do really deep trauma work and rewiring of deep belief systems. A lot of the sound baths I do bring people down into theta, and so they're in this waking dream state and they have creative breakthroughs, emotional breakthroughs, semi-hallucinogenic effects like ego dissolution, loss of time, loss of space. They forget where in the room they are. A half hour feels like 10 minutes. We have time dilation. So it's a place that is, it's deep and it's pretty far removed from the state we're in now, where we're like tracking time and we're doing things, we're using computers and we're learning. So theta is it's the place of dreams. The next step up is alpha. And alpha is primary when we're meditating, or for me, my alpha goes up when I'm listening to music and I'm really engaged, I'm in the moment and I'm listening to the music as it's playing. It's a very absorbed process. It's more alert than dreaming, so if you're meditating, someone says your name, you wake up immediately and you can fly into a conversation. So it's not like waking up from sleep. You can increase your alpha most easily just by closing your eyes. So it shuts out the outside world and you start to move internally a little bit. That's alpha. So to review, we've got delta, blackout sleep, theta, dreaming, alpha, meditation. So all of those essentially are the unconscious or subconscious. It's not the state we're in now, which is moving into consciousness, like awake consciousness. So delta, theta, alpha, and then what we're in right now is the next range, and that's beta. Beta is problem solving, learning. Beta likes novelty, so that's one of the things with devices, our phones, is it constantly hits your beta over and over and over. So it's always like something new, something new, something new. Beta is something that, coming from a capitalist society, they want to squeeze as much beta out of you as possible, just like work, 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 focus, focus, focus. So when you see things about like worker optimization and performing better mentally, a lot of that is beta. And then what we have is beta burnout. So if you're always in beta, you don't have these times to move down into the more restorative states, like alpha and theta. So for example, if I'm overworking, I'm in beta all day, I'm coding, I'm working on music, like whatever, I'm just like go, 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 go. And at the end of the day, when I fall asleep, I just plummet down. I plummet down through alpha, through theta, into blackout sleep. And I don't really spend time in alpha and theta. I don't drift to sleep, I'm just like so exhausted, I just plummet down. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, and then emails and work and whatever. And so I'm just vacillating from just a blackout sleep, some dreaming, and then up to beta. If I live like that too much, I don't have a time to be in a place to be restorative and creative, which is alpha theta. And that's the purpose of a lot of the sound designs and performances I do is I want to bring people out of beta, which we're in now, down into a meditative state and down into a waking dream state, so they have a chance to restore. Yeah, did you have a question?
Just at the beginning, what are these considered? Like they're considered states? They're considered
They're frequency bands. Yes. So they're different speeds of oscillations. So the delta is the slowest oscillation, theta is a little bit faster, alpha is a little bit faster, beta is what we're in now, it's pretty fast. And then the final one I'll talk about is gamma, and that's above beta. And yeah, they oscillate, and the speed of the oscillation. Delta is 1 to 3, theta is 4 to 7 hertz, alpha is 8 to 12 hertz, beta is 13 to 30, and then gamma is 30 and above. So gamma is moments of aha, of intuition, of insight, joy for others. Gamma is more externally focused. Sometimes when you have these gamma bursts, like when you're working on a creative project, your best ideas don't necessarily come from a logical sequence of like, oh, if I do this, it leads to this, it leads to this. That's more beta. But you kind of work on things and you go for a walk and all of a sudden you're like, I've got it. That's a gamma burst. And particularly for creative people or people who are doing engineering or innovative thinking, gamma is really important. But if you're in beta all the time, if you're just cranking and working and working and working, there's not enough fuel to get into those really high frequencies because all of it's being burned up in your normal, just like routine beta churn. And so the way that you can get to gamma is getting good rest and meditating. Because the way that gamma waves are, because they're so fast, it's hard for them to get high amplitude. A lot of their energy is being spent on their speed, so it's harder for them to get these really high peaks. So what gamma does, kind of like a leaf on an ocean wave, it rides on top of theta. And so when you have these theta surges or alpha theta surges, gamma will ride on top of it, and then that's how you get these peaks, which end up into these moments of insight or moments of higher creativity. And so the fuel for gamma is rest and meditation. Yeah?
What's the line that's kind of in the middle that goes kind of to the sides and then down?
This gray one in the middle, that's an accelerometer. So based on my head position, so if I put my head back, it goes up. If I put my head down, it goes down, left, right, and then shake. So that's another data point you can use. So red is hard. What's that?
red is hard.
Red is the flow of my blood, so it's, yep, picking up my heart rate on a PPG. Any questions about the brainwaves?
You use MIDI.
Do I use MIDI? Yep.
You use MIDI. Well, you can use, I mean, I'm thinking you go MIDI because you're a musician.
Correct.
That was your natural sense.
That's correct.
I would go OSC.
Mhm.
That's all.
A lot of devices use OSC, and in many ways OSC can be advantageous because it has higher fidelity, or higher resolution.
Yes.
Because MIDI is just 0 to 127.
Right.
And OSC, is it 256 or 512? It's higher, right?
It's 256.
Yeah. So you can get more resolution.
You know, and DMX is 255.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So I use MIDI just because of my music background. The other thing I'll show on this page is this corner up here. Do you see where it says noise, muscle, focus, clear, meditate, dream? So that's a machine learning model that I did on my own brain. And what I did is I took samples of my brain when I was in these different states. So noise is if the device is off or it's loose and it's just picking up noise from the atmosphere. Muscle noise is what's peaking right now because I'm talking. Or if when it shakes loose a little bit, we get peaks in noise. When I'm not moving, because I'm giving a lecture, so I'm gonna go still, and you see how focus goes up? Because that's the state I'm in right now. I will attempt in front of you all to clear my mind and even meditate and see if that has an effect. But I'll show you some sonification while we do that. That machine learning model is trained on my brain. I'm finding that it works decently on other people, but to really have a robust machine learning model, you would need to train it on a lot of different people as they're meditating or in a focused state in order to have a more, it's working fine for these small prototype purposes, just it being trained on my brain. And so the closer that my current state of mind is to the training I did when I trained these ML models, that bar goes up. The percentage of likelihood that it's matching that state goes up. And I used ML5, which is a offshoot of P5. Are you using P5 and other? Okay, that's kind of a hit. The way that the MIDI is going from this app is this second tab, which is called MIDI mapping. And the way that you turn these streams on and off is you check these checkboxes. I probably don't have time to go in depth into MIDI mapping, but I just wanted to be able to demonstrate this is where you do the MIDI mapping, and this is where you instruct Ableton what slider or what knob to move based on the brainwave state. I'll start with one example. So this jaw facial tension, that's that muscle ML bar, and that'll probably be easiest because I'm talking. So what I did earlier today is I mapped that jaw facial tension. Actually, there's two things. The CC is the ML model. So a MIDI CC is equivalent of a knob turn. So you're like turning something up or turning something down. So the more tense I am, I can turn a knob up or down. The other thing is I'm doing peak detection. So these different states or brainwaves, as they go up and down, they have natural peaks and valleys. And when there's a peak, I fire off a MIDI note. And that MIDI note goes over to Ableton if this note column is checked. So as I'm talking, there's going to be peaks in my the muscle on my forehead. That will launch a note over to Ableton, and I've mapped that to a sound, so I can sonify my muscle tension. And that one is these wave sounds. Do you hear that white noise? I can boost it a little bit. So I just like moved my forehead and wiggled my ears, and what that did is that sent a note over to Ableton. And I like using these white ocean wave sounds for muscle tension because it gives a cue. Usually the sound designs I create are relaxing, and so it gives a cue to the person that yes, you're tense and there's movement in that tension, rather than it being like an alarm sound or something that's abrasive, which would then make them more tense. So it's a way to say, this is muscle tension, but how about we start relaxing and soothe into more calm states? Any questions about the muscle tension triggering the ocean waves? It's sending notes. Yeah, so anytime I can make my forehead tense. Let's take a look back at. It's sending, in this particular build, it's just sending a C over, and then I do some randomization inside of Ableton, so it's standardized. Oh. You might need a max patch to do that, but I'm doing the randomization through. Let's take a look. Actually, this one's only, is it a? Here it is. So I'm pitching it down, I'm putting it through a randomizer and putting it through a scale, and then it triggers this white noise sample.
But these are like just effects in Ableton, they're not controlled by.
Correct, I'm not thinking C note, D note. These devices don't have that resolution to think of different notes. To get to that type of resolution, you have to drill into the brain and implant, which I'm not going to do for you this afternoon. All right, so next one that I'm seeing with fairly good control is this clear mind. Or is focus going up a bit? We could try this focus. I'll try focus. So focus is beta, and I'll turn this on, and two things are happening. See in this orange column, the arrow is going up and down, and then notes are also triggering. So as I get into a focus state, two things are happening. As that focus state increases, it raises the volume, and the peaks are sending notes in. So two things. So it's like raising the volume and sending in notes based on my focus state.
Did you have to do that on Ableton? Or?
I MIDI mapped it to Ableton and then created several synthesizers that listen to the focus channel. So the notes for focus are coming over on channel 3, which you can see here. So my the muscle noise is channel 2. The beta focus is channel 3, and then I think alpha is channel 5, and theta is channel 6. So you can assign each mental state to its own MIDI channel so it doesn't interfere with the others. Does that make sense?
Could you share that template?
Sure, I'll send this file over to everyone so it can map for you right away. So let's try, I think I lost connection. Yes, I did. Sometimes when the headbands start to run out of juice, they start disconnecting more. I think that's mine. We'll see. Yep, that's mine. All right, so let's try clear mind, or I'm sorry, let's try focus. Yeah.
Why is hair measure this device, why your heartbeat is still showing?
Because it's setting the tempo, and so the actual beat is coming from inside Ableton in a loop, and I'm changing the BPM of the song to match my heartbeat. That's something I started doing with techno shows, because if this disconnected in the middle of a techno set, as you've seen, it can take 10 seconds or so to like reconnect it. And so it's awkward in front of a crowd that's dancing to be like, just a second. So I programmed it to keep playing, and then when it kicks back in, my live tempo takes it back over. So it's kind of a safeguard. That's a great question. So let's try these beta notes to see if they kick in. Usually I'm used to, when I look at the screen and try to do something in my brain, it's more about there we go. Did you hear that? Those reverb notes? It'll probably happen as I'm talking to you, whereas when I look at the screen, I usually go into more of a clear mind or meditative state. So it makes sense that as I'm talking to you and thinking about the sentences that I'm forming in my brain right now and coming out of my mouth, that's a focus state. And so we'll hear more of the music as I'm talking. Let's try, oh, there we go. I can let that ride. In terms of composition as a musician, you start to feel these different ebbs and flows of your body and your brain. And then that starts to impact whether I keep going or if I pause and just let it unveil for a while. So it becomes this relationship with the music that's quite organic. That's my favorite part about musical neurofeedback or brainwave music. It's this ongoing relationship of what's coming out of the speaker and what's going on in my head, and it's this dance. Like I do something and then it does something and then I do something. Yes, please.
How good is the resolution of capturing the brain waves? Because, for example, if we do EEG stuff, it's going to be much more, I guess, compared to this much more precise. So I don't know.
So you can tell that I'm listening.
I just wonder how good is the precision is to catch for this device
It's 256 hertz. And then when you 256 hertz is the resolution of the device. And so when you do you know fast Fourier transform?
Yes.
So after the fast Fourier transform, you have 128. You have 128 slots of frequency, and then since it's 256 resolution, each slot in the fast Fourier, each array is 1 hertz. So you've got an array of 128 values in the power spectral density. I just lost everyone. You have 100, and so each slot in the array is like 1 hertz, 2 hertz, 3 hertz. And so, for example, alpha is 8 to 12 hertz. So you have 4 bins of information for alpha going up and down, and usually people just average it, those 4 bins. Now, if let's say this was, the resolution rate was 512, you could have half hertz bins. So instead of having 4 bins to detect alpha, you could have 8 bins of half slices. Okay, did that answer your question?
Yes, so just like quality rate. Like,
The quality?
How good is this compared to like more precise?
Oh, compared to like medical grade?
Yeah.
It's decent for the price. That's what I would say, because these are now like, a student looked the other day, they're like $60 on eBay now.
No.
Yeah, because the new model came out, and so these twos just keep dropping and dropping in price, and they're great. Like, I do brainwave symphonies where I bring together like 6, 7, 8 people together, and their brains make music together. And so buying a bunch of these, and they nestle together, so it's easy to travel with them. Whereas other EEGs are big and clunky, and have to have whole new suitcases just for the EEGs, and each one could cost like $500 or $1,000. And so that would eat up all the grant funds. So they're decent, I would say, in terms of, and medical ones, you've got like the 64, and you have the gel, and it takes about an hour to put it on. With this, it took, 60 seconds to put it on. You tighten it, and you're like, oh, I've got a signal. So certainly for our purposes and art purposes, I think it's great. I just want to say how thrilled I was that the beta notes were really kicking in as I was listening to you. So it's like a soundtrack, and this is one of the things that I really love about this, is that it takes this process, which is normally invisible, which is, what is my brain doing? Where is my consciousness? Am I focused? Am I not? So if I were listening to the question and zoning out, you have heard a different sound come up. Mm-hmm. But because I was listening, you hear the focus notes, those beta notes. So again, that's vulnerability. Like, I can't hide my general state of being is going to be coming out in the music. Let's try clear mind. Clear mind would be, I'm going to turn beta off for a second. I turn solo off, so I'm like muting and unmuting tracks. So you hear that sound? That's clear mind. And so what I'm doing is I'm just clearing my mind. I'm thinking nothing. You're like, what? That's an option. So I'm just blanking out. Full disclosure, the way that I discovered clear mind was wearing EEG and like scrolling on my phone, and my mind just goes blank. It's kind of disassociative, or kind of relaxing, letting go, disassociative. All your brainwaves just kind of drop, and they become a lower amplitude, and so I call that clear mind.
But you're making it sound like turn on the volume when you're clearing the mind.
Exactly.
So it's reminding you.
It's letting me know when that goes up. It's letting me know that I'm successfully letting go of thought.
But then you have a thought with that.
When I hear it?
Yeah.
Potentially.
And now your mind is no longer clear.
It is possible to hear without reacting with a large impulse. And I want to talk about that a little bit more. When you do that, it's a form of ego dissolution because you start to merge with the sound. So to have thought and reaction, that means the sound is one thing and I'm another thing.
Right.
But when I really let go of the ego structure the best I can as I'm standing in front of a class, it's like, but when I let go of that and merge with the sound doesn't prompt a reaction to me because I've merged with it. It's a bit
That's wonderful.
spiritual, metaphysical, but that's also what I'm going for in the sound baths, is to bring people to this state where their egos dissolve. Not in a hardcore, 10 hits of acid ego dissolution, but just a mild ego dissolution that helps you let go a bit and forget who you are, at least for a moment.
It's good to train your mind.
Yeah. Let's see if it works again. And then if I start talking, it plummets. And then let's try alpha. I turn clear mind off, go to alpha. So if you remember what I said about alpha, one of the best ways to raise alpha and get into a meditative state is to close your eyes. So I'm going to attempt to close my eyes and meditate a little bit, and we'll see if this alpha arrow goes up. I won't know if it will. Let's give it a shot, unless it gets loud enough that I can hear it. I wonder if I should sit. I'll try this first. Did it move at all?
Yes.
Oh, great. I think I need to put a volume booster on there, so I wasn't able to hear it, but, oh, hey. So I feel a bit dreamier now coming out of it, like I'm a little spacey, because the thing about alpha, it's really about surrender. So beta is about holding on, like figuring things out. And so to shift from this active beta mind to alpha, it's these steps of surrendering and surrendering. Like, oh, I'm in front of a class, I'm working on this thing, I hope this alpha thing works, let that go. All right, what am I gonna say? Oh, let that go. Oh, I'm holding this tension in my body, let that go. I have an expectation for it to work, let that go. So it's step by step by step, letting go, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're like, I did it, and then it goes away. So that one goes away. Alpha is more elusive than clear mind. Because alpha, it's almost, I've heard it described as, from one neuroscientist, as an inverse wave. The other ones, different types of activity cause it to go up, and alpha goes up when you let go. Alpha can also work spatially, so it's a suppressor. So let's say I'm in a really noisy restaurant and I'm trying to talk to volume. My alpha waves will go up almost like 300 degrees around me. It will be blocking out the signal, and then my alpha waves will be lower in this part of my brain, so I can actually hear volume and just volume. So it's suppressing everything else except her. And then if I get distracted, you know, and then I'm hearing too much and I can't focus on you, my alpha isn't able to suppress that sound. So it's a suppressor, like a sensory suppressor, the way it was described to me. This work has led me to meet various neuroscientists who know light years more than I do, and I'm just doing my best to translate it into something to describe this art form. Any questions about alpha or any? I won't get into theta, like that's like deep sleep. It would take 25 minutes of sitting quietly. But if you were to design an experience for someone that has them fall asleep, oh, my theta went a little bit. Sometimes it kicks in with fatigue as well, yeah.
Yeah, on the mind control app, like I see that the numbers keep going up and down through different brainwaves.
Yeah.
But how do you tell, looking at that by line, like what brainwave is it?
Looking at which line?
Because it's the white line that.
It is the white line.
So like where?
Where are the cutoffs?
Yeah.
That's an update I need to and will make on this software. What I plan to do is put colored bars kind of faintly behind so you can see like the strip of what's, and then I could color code the text as well, put little squares of color, put the text that color. So you can see, oh, delta is that first strip, theta is the next strip, alpha, beta, and then the big gamma, or big beta, big gamma strips.
And so ultimately you're trying to kind of smooth out that wave, right? So that it's not like spiking as much?
In terms of, well, it depends on what state you're trying to get to. So if I want to be in a focused or tense state, it's fine for these to be spiking on the bottom. It just, like for example, you could put this on and have it trigger, I mean, you see the spikes happening as I'm talking, particularly with muscle. You could have a sound play or a visual spiking when you're talking, and it's maybe it's like a sub-conversation, you know, it's like these, I don't know, beeps or bloops or whatever, and it's a context for the words you're saying on top of it, or if you were even mouthing words, you know, you're still gonna be triggering the muscle, and so you can have the computer talk for you as you're mouthing words, and triggering off. And then, let's say you want to get into a more relaxed state. I don't know if I'm answering your question. Can you ask it again?
Yeah, I guess like, I guess it makes sense when you're mapping it into to the music, so that it's like you have this conversation, like what you're saying, right? Where once you're aware of it,
Yeah.
like if you're focused, then the music increases. But like visually looking at the waves, is the goal, like as a meditator or somebody who's trying to find resilience, are you trying to smooth out the waves like in a particular state? So say like if you're in beta, you're in a focus state, but you're trying to get more into like alpha or even beta, would you try to kind of stay in that state like in a smooth way? Because if you're spiking, then you're moving from brainwave to brainwave, right? You're moving from state to state.
These spikes here are amplitudes, and left to right is frequency. And again, that's my bad UI UX, because I didn't list the X and the Y. So, you know, these spikes that happen, those are volume or amplitude spikes. If you were trying to get into a meditative state, I think it's probably around here where my cursor is alpha. So the rest of it would be fairly flat, and then you'd start to see this peak grow, and that's your alpha waves. So visually, that would be an indicator. Other times I've done it with bars rather than showing that full spectrum. I prefer this to see the full spectrum, at least in some views, just mostly because I can tell if it's a good connection or not. You know, so if I were to take it off, see how noisy that is. And so when I fit it back on, it becomes that low, you know, that nice low, slow, kind of that L shape. Any other questions? Yes?
So who you are collaborating with this research project?
Downstairs?
In psychology department?
Suzanne Dicker. Yep. she's done a lot of work with musical neurofeedback, and particularly with groups, like social, what's the word? Social neuroscience or synchrony, and seeing how both brains and hearts can sync up when people are doing shared tasks. That's something I've explored some with the brainwave symphony format that I've done, where a lot of people are wearing EEGs, and what sort of music do they make together, and then what sort of experiences do they share that they had during that. Mishka just did some brainwave research downstairs. How did it go?
It went well.
Okay. And you've got another appointment tomorrow?
I do.
We'll see you there.
I couldn't figure out if it was the recorded one or the not recorded one.
We'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay.
We have a number of people did the study, did the study, did the study, did the study, did the study. Yes?
Can we still join in on the study, or is it too late?
We're all booked up, unfortunately. Yeah. I leave town Sunday, so the last day for it is tomorrow. It's booked up. Let's talk afterwards. I'll see if maybe. Let's talk afterwards. My collaborator is gonna kill me. She's like, you have to stop making friends and bringing them to this research study. We're supposed to do 30 subjects, and I thought I meant 30. No, we were supposed to do 30 sessions, so it's 2 sessions per person. We're supposed to do 30 sessions. I interpreted that as 30 subjects, meaning 60 sessions. And then now we're up to around like 46, 47 participants. So we're at like 96, 97 sessions. So if I go missing, it's my collaborator, Kaya Sargent. Call the police on her. Blink twice if you're in danger.
You should invite her to the sushi social today.
I should. When is that?
Tonight, seven.
Great.
Bring her.
Great.
We'll stuff her with sushi.
Oh, it's sushi.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And s'mores, yes.
Smooshy, with smooshies? Smooshies. I'll just leave it at that. Any other questions about brainwave music? I see that we're at, I'm actually borrowing Kaya's computer because she's using mine for the site, and it's on Pacific time. Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Can you analyze yourself looking at the screen, or is looking at the screen gonna,
Interfere.
yeah?
What depth of analysis are you thinking?
Just trying to, let's say, calm my mind.
Certainly.
Or is music a better?
It's something that intrigues me more, but there's all sorts of visual neurofeedback that are used in therapies. So for example, let's say you're trying to train your mind into a relaxed state. An image might become more visible as you get closer to your target, and then it disappears as you get stressed out.
You got any VR stuff?
I had an art exhibit in Dubai where we used a MetaQuest 3 and the EEG, so we embedded this inside of a VR headset and put it on, and it worked really well because when you screw the VR headset on, the connection was so solid because it just pressed the sensors really hard against the forehead. And what the exhibit was is in an AR space, we had these particles of water floating around with this music score that was, we also used ocean waves, it was violins. So we used violins for an active mind as the water particles moved around in space in front of you. And then if you could get centered into that clear mind state that I was showing, all the water molecules would cohese into one, and the violins would melt away and become this meditative tone. And then as you got distracted again, the water molecule would break apart and the frenetic music would come back. So that was it was AR, but it was use of a VR headset with live brainwave responsiveness.
Can you do like wave matching, let's say something upsets you, and you like record that this is the thought that's upsetting you, say, somehow use that data to get you away from that? Is that possible?
I've seen some people use distinct machine learning models if it's a strong enough, evocative enough reaction. They can machine learn on those reactions and then think of that thing in order to like push a button or send a command. It wasn't with this headset, it was with the Crown. I think it's Neurosity Crown, which is a bigger, more expensive headset. Thank you for being here, Bio. Thank you. And these headsets are available at the ER. They bought a number of them when I was a student here 2-3 years ago.
Or did we go back to
Those are mine.
okay.
I've donated enough to them.
I have a question about your biofeedback sound baths.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, what they are.
What they are? Yeah. I'm going to take this headset off. Okay. The biofeedback sound baths were an extension of my thesis work here at IMA Low Res. Going into low res, I was doing EEG music, but it was techno. And I had these incredible transcendent experiences unexpectedly. Like I got into it thinking, all right, I'm gonna perform techno with my brain, that's novel and that's fun and that's interesting. But while on stage, I had these meditations that were so deep, I forgot I was performing. That's how relaxed I got. I mean, that's unheard of being on a stage. And then also another time, totally sober, I transcended into this pure ecstasy because I was hearing the music as it was playing. It kept stimulating. I just spiraled up, and literally wept like a madman on stage. I was just like bawling on stage, and that never happened to me before. So I saw that by hearing and experiencing musical neurofeedback, I can go up and down the ladder further than I can normally. What we started to look at, myself and my thesis advisor, was what is the audience expectation as I'm having these like weeping on stage or like meditating so hard that I forget that you're there. They're there watching me have this experience, but they're not having that experience. And so we thought, how do we change the format of the performances where I invite them to have the experience as well? Because at a techno show, you're expected to stand or dance, but watch the performer. Whereas in the sound bath format, borrowing from sound baths with like gongs and bells and the crystal bowls, the expectation of the audience is it's okay for them to close their eyes and sit down or lie down or fall asleep. And by doing that, I started getting these rooms full of people listening to my heart and my brain. And what we found is that they start to sync up via self-reporting. They like check their pulse and they tell me, I haven't done something where they're all wearing sensors. And that's something I want to do in the future. So as I'm calming down, as I'm getting into these deeper states, I paid special attention. My thesis output was actually a sound design. Like, how do I design sounds to sonify an active brainwave state, a meditative state, and then finally that deep hypnotic theta dreamy state in a way that helps other people go down the ladder with me. And as I tweaked that sound design and did more and more of these sound baths, people descended with me. And I learned I can't drink coffee on those days because I can't get my heart rate below a certain rate if it's artificially boosted with caffeine. And so the more I relax, and my heartbeat's coming out of this big subwoofer. So it's not that they just hear it with their ears, but they feel the bass waves going through their bodies, and that's cueing their heart to start to sync up to it. So it's this almost like a mother-child, what's it?
Oh, entrainment?
Entrainment, it's entrainment. So there's a dominant signal and a receiving signal, or receptors. And so it's this fascinating, organic, energetic, bioresonant field, whatever terms make sense of like what that phenomenon is. But what tends to happen is people will drift into this hypnotic state with me, and then they have their own experiences of semi-psychedelic, like loss of time, loss of space, ego dissolution. Some people have really vivid, wild visions. Some people, like I said, have creative breakthroughs or emotional resolutions, or it's a very cozy place. Like, it sounds like, oh, I don't know if I want to go there, but it actually feels more like home than this does. It's a very like younger place that feels very safe. And what ends up happening in the room is, in many ways, it's recreating our experience in the womb, because we're in a container, and we all spent several months in the womb with essentially a big subwoofer above our head, our mom's heartbeat. And I don't believe it's a coincidence that the tempos of dance music, what we can perceive as dance music in a beat, essentially line up with the range of the human heart. So you got 40 BPM up to 200, 250, and the heart really can't go outside of those ranges safely. And that's essentially, like, if you go slower than that, you don't really perceive it as a beat anymore. If above that, it's so fast that you can't move to it. So there's something very corporal, very bodily about the phenomenon. So we all move into this very cozy, sweet, creative place together.
Yeah, it sounds very powerful. I mean, I feel like sound baths are already like a very strong kind of emotional, or can be. When's the next one?
I did one last week at Brown University.
Oh, wow.
There's a fantastic conference called CRCI, and that's where I met Cardin here. Can you remind me what CRCI stands for? It's choreographic? Conference?
For choreographic interfaces.
What's the R?
Conference on research for choreographic.
Research for choreographic interfaces. I was like, why'd you invite me? It's a bunch of dancers. I'm an all right dancer, but like, these are amazing people. But during the intro, they explained this is about bodies and technology. I was like, okay, I understand why I was invited. Yeah. Next sound bath is probably gonna be in Berlin. I'm heading to Berlin on Sunday. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cardin, did you have a question?
Oh no, I was gonna say it was nice to like be able to hear your heartbeat throughout this, because like especially when you're trying to get to those focus states, like I could almost know where you are in that kind of state of like delving into focus by just listening to your heartbeat.
Yeah, I agree. I'm starting to tune in more to the fact that a ton of information just comes from the heartbeat, and part of that is working with Kaya downstairs in the research. She's really focused on heart data. Yeah. Awesome.
You're leaving, but is the research staying?
The research,
I missed it.
I'm not sure if we're doing more data collection, but it is, I mean, it's owned by NYU, the research is. Yeah.
Where can we follow it?
Let me get your email.
Okay.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Quick question.
Yes.
When is the next happening in Berlin?